If you want to experience the tranquility of traveling alone, the overwhelming feeling of standing at the edge of the world, see a whale, puffin, seal or sea monsters, while sailing to adventurous islands, the Westfjords might be the right place for you. The Westfjords abounds with sites of interest, a good variety of hiking trails and lively social settlements. Hólmavik is a beautiful village in the region of Strandir, and there it's ideal to visit the magical museum of sorcery and witchcraft. What kind of an exhibition have you got here at the Museum of Sorcery and Witchcraft?
Well, this is mainly about the witch craze in Iceland, a period of about 50 years that took place in 17th century. But also we add into it Icelandic folklore, which is connected to magic and sorcery. For an example, this is the House of the Necropants. Quite a popular item, and yeah, we go a little bit through the usage of sorcery or magic and tales which are connected to the subject. So it's quite interesting for various groups of people.
But you claim, Siggi, that you are a sorcerer.
Yes, yeah.
What do you do as a sorcerer?
Yeah, there's a reason why there's such a good weather today, for example.
In the old Icelandic sagas, Strandir is only mentioned when it comes to sorcery or magic. The witch hunts in Europe reached Iceland in the late 17th century. 21 Icelandic people were burned at the stake, and 17 out of 21 came from the Westfjords. The turf-roofed sorcerer's cottage in Bjarnarfjörður is part of the Witchcraft Museum in Hólmavik. The Witchcraft exhibition in Hólmavik examines local superstitions, while the sorcerer's cottage shows the everyday life of the ordinary tenant farmer in the 17th century. In the cottage, you will see how they lived and what magic they used for daily life. For example, how they could let the grass grow faster and the cows milk more. Just a few steps away from the turf cottage is the ancient pool of Gvendur, which was blessed by the bishop Guðmundur the Good in the 12th century, and is now a national monument. The consecrated pool feeds the lovely geothermal pool nearby, so if you stop by for a dip, you're essentially bathing in holy water. Across the fjord from Hólmavik is Drangsnes, a remote little fishing village with views across the small uninhabited island of Grímsey. Ásbjörn, who runs the local restaurant and guest house Malarhorn in Drangsnes, is a fisherman. He also runs the boat tours to Grímsey. Grímsey Island, supposedly formed by a giant trying to dig the Westfjords apart from the rest of Iceland, is the biggest attraction in Drangsnes. The boat ride is only 10 minutes across. Grímsey boasts a rich bird life of puffins and fulmars. There's a swimming pool and camping area in Drangsnes, but it's also possible to blend in with the locals and take a free dip into the small hot pools at the seashore. If you want to taste the best waffles in the world, you should drive Skötufjörður and pay a visit to the farm Litlibær, where Kristján and Sigríður will welcome you. Kristján was born at the farm in Litlibær in Hvítanes, which was built 1895 by two families. The house is made of timber with stone side walls and grass on the roof and is now a museum owned by the National Museum of Iceland. Close to Litlibærin Hvítanes, you might see curious creatures playing in the sea. Seal watching is a fascinating experience, and there is no better place to see these beautiful animals than in their natural habitat. At Hotel Ísafjörður, you can borrow a bike and cycle around the village. A walk through Ísafjörður is an informative and enjoyable journey across the canvas of Iceland's history. Sigurður Pétursson specializes in the story of the houses of Ísafjörður.
Ísafjörður is one of the oldest towns in Iceland. In fact, towns in Iceland are just 200 years old or so. This is the center of the town, and it's called the Silver Square. And that's not because you had silver all over the place. What you had instead was the salted dry cod, the bacalhau. So if you came here during the summer and you saw all the salted dry fish on the field, you saw it like glittering like a silver all over. And that's why this is the Silver Square. And then we had this main street of the town. And like in Europe, you have the shops and working places on the ground floor, people living on the next floor, and then you have maybe some working people on the top floor. And that's how we have it still today, this main street of Ísafjörður. We have houses here from all periods of history of the towns in Iceland. From the 19th century and from the 20th century, of course. And we have protected these houses. And many of these houses are family houses. Families take care of them, and they have renovated them. So I walk around with tourists here in the town, telling the stories of the houses and also telling about the people living in the houses for the last 200 years.
And here where we're standing, you've got a museum and also one of the most popular restaurants in Iceland, Tjörhúsið.
That's right, that's right. These four houses are all from the 18th century, the oldest group of houses in Iceland, you could say. And now, one of the houses is for the local museum. It's built around the fisheries, of course. And then we have one of the most famous restaurants north of the Alps, I think. Of course, with fresh fish from the fjords and a good chef. And now he has put Ísafjörður on the map for the most delicious restaurants in Europe, I think.
Vigur is one of the most popular attractions in the Westfjords. This tiny island is the home of thousands of birds, puffins, Arctic terns, eider ducks and black guillemots. A single family has lived on the island for generations, and its members have warmly welcomed thousands of guests every summer. The Vigur trip starts with a half-an-hour boat tour from Ísafjörður. On the island, the first thing guests may see is Iceland's only windmill proudly standing close to the pier.
That mill was built in 1840 and was used to grind corn, which was bought from Denmark at that time. We had many of those mills around Iceland, but this is the last one. And they're trying they rebuilt it actually, and they're trying to make it work as it did in a proper way, like they did before. And it's the National Museum of Iceland that owns the mill now.
Mm-hmm. It's not a big island. There are a few people that live here.
Yeah, there are only two of them that live here over the winter time. but during the summertime there may be 5 and up to 10.
Even though there are only 2 people that live here, you've got a post office over here.
Yeah, it's probably the smallest post office in the world. And this is also the place where they clean the iron down, which they get from the colony during the springtime. And during the springtime, this is their main work. But the traveling industry has taken its place in Vigur Island as well. So you can go by boat to Vigur. You can, if you take the grand tour, of course, then you get the soup, the mushroom soup and the salad as well, and then the cakes and the coffee afterwards. And then you can take short trips as well.
Suðureyri is an eco-friendly fishing village famous for the original tour, Fisherman Food Trail.
The food trail is a tour that leads through the whole village of Suðureyri and talks about the history of its establishment and how it is the most eco-friendly fishing village today in Iceland.
And you have around 10 stops around the village. This is one of the stops. What do you do here?
This is our dry fish shack. This is one of our heavy industries in the area, a very traditional dry fish shack. And in here we give the people a taste of the traditional dry fish that we produce here in the village, which is quite a specialty and probably one of the most favorite snacks that Icelanders have on a daily basis.
If you don't buy the dry fish ready in the shop, you'll have to use a hammer to soften it. And that's why we call it hard fish in Icelandic.
Once you're done with that, all you got to do is peel off the fish and give it to the people.
Eat it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the tour ends with people having food.
Well, people get food not just once, they get actually food 4 times. And it's always a different kind of product every single time. But the last stop is the fishing school itself, where people get, let's say they get a souvenir that is not the usual souvenir, because they learn how to produce, how to make a nice fish recipe themselves that they can reproduce all the time at home and tell their stories about Iceland, what they have learned about this village, instead of just writing one single postcard that you forget once you send it off. You can actually do it all the time.
Only a short drive from Ísafjörður is the oldest fishing village in Iceland, Bolungarvik. Fishing has been the main occupation of this area since the early days of settlement of Iceland, due to the easy access to excellent fishing grounds. Several fishermen huts were situated by the seashore, only inhabited seasonally depending on the fishing period, and permanent habitation didn't exist for a long time. General trading in Bolungarvik didn't start until 1890, and shortly after that people began to settle down in the area. It's romantic to watch the midnight sun at the top of the mountain Bolafjall. An hour-long boat ride from Bolungarvik will take you to the small quiet village of Hesteyri. Nature and wildlife blossoms at Hesteyri, but the village was abandoned in the middle of the last century. You can take a stroll between the few houses that are left and take in the unusually rich vegetation of the area. Enjoy a cup of coffee and a piece of cake at the charming local coffee house located in the old doctor's house. If you're lucky, you can see the huge humpback whales waving their flukes and sometimes leaping, a sight that will leave you breathless. Humpback whale flukes are large, notched in the center, and the whales nearly always show them when leaving the surface. The museum at Ósvör, close to Bolungarvik, is a reconstructed fishing station recreated as a memorial of almost forgotten Icelandic industrial activity. Inside there are many different tools and equipment of everyday use. The guide of the museum is an excellent representative of the Icelandic fisherman as he walks around the area in his typical sheepskin outfit. At Ósvör, you'll see how seamanship and fishing at sea was originally performed in Iceland and through the centuries. The waterfall Dynjandi is by far the most spectacular waterfall in the Westfjords region. There is a booming sound in Dynjandi, so the waterfall is befitting of its name, because Dynjandi means thunderous. It's ideal to stay at Bildudalur whilst exploring the Westfjords. The locals in Bildudalur are known for being friendly, and Ása Dóra Finnbogadóttir at Stepping Stones Guest House will give you a warm welcome.
Bildudalur is a small, cozy village, fishing village with a rich history. As you see, very good weather all the time here, and yeah, it's a very pleasant place to be. I recommend that people come here and stay for a while, 3-4 nights, and use this as a home base for visiting and exploring all the sites that are interesting here in the area. We have 2 places of accommodation, a hostel and then Stiklur Stepping Stones bed and breakfast. And the next house is the restaurant Vegamót in Bildudalur, where it's very good to have fish and other courses here.
Tales of sea monsters are highly popular in Iceland, and I can guarantee that you'll catch a glimpse of them if you visit the Icelandic Sea Monster Museum in Bildudalur.
It is probably the only one of its type in the world, and we have the exhibition is all in this Jules Verne fantasy theme, so it's quite an adventure to go there.
Tales of sea monsters are quite popular here in Arnarfjörður.
Yes, for the last 100 years, the sea monsters have almost only been seen here in Arnarfjörður, and therefore it is the best location for the Sea Monster Museum, where the monsters are.
And are people claiming that they're still seeing them?
Yes, only like a few weeks ago we had people coming from what we call the valleys, out in the valleys. There are beaches there, and they claim that they saw the shore laddie, which is the smallest of the monsters and probably the most frequent sighted one.
The Museum of Music is a nostalgic museum owned by the singer Jón K.R. Ólafsson. At the museum, you'll get to know the history of Icelandic music industry and see music covers and photos of well-known Icelandic musicians and singers. The whirling sensation will not fade, and neither will the memories. The geothermal pool Reykjaneslaug in Reykjafjörður is the biggest hot pot in the country. It's incredible to watch the midnight sun whilst bathing in this warm, natural pool. In Selárdalur, you'll find unique houses that belong to the artist Samuel Jónsson. Samuel Jónsson has been called the simple-hearted artist. After retiring and starting to collect a pension, he painted and constructed remarkable statues and buildings at Brautarholt in Selárdalur, an isolated valley without even having received any artistic training. Working entirely alone, he also constructed a museum building for his pieces and a church intended to house an altarpiece he had made and the local parish church had rejected. Villi May is an Icelandic organic herbal company that offers a wide range of 100% certified organic Icelandic salves, balms and oils. The charms behind the products are their natural ingredients, hand-picked Icelandic herbs from the pure, untainted environment of the Westfjords, with its clean water and unpolluted air ensuring the best natural raw materials. The Látrabjarg cliff rises up 40 meters from the sea at its highest point and stretches 14 kilometers, forming the westernmost tip of Europe. The cliffs are easily accessible by car, and when you're there, a walk along the cliffs awaits. Látrabjarg is deservedly the most visited tourist attraction in the Westfjords. Westfjords Adventures in Patreksfjörður offers various travel services and leisure activities in the scenic, spectacular and picturesque southern Westfjords. Sea angling is a great adventure and an unforgettable experience. All around Patreksfjörður you can find rich fishing grounds where it's very likely that you will catch a cod or haddock. The tour takes 2 hours and starts with a 30-minute cruise where the captain finds the right grounds for fishing. Westfjord Adventures also offers various bus and super jeep tours. Ferry Baldur crosses Breiðafjörður Bay daily from Brjánslækur to Stykkishólmur on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. A ferry ride considerably shortens the route between the south and midwest of the country and the Westfjords region.